Good evening, all. We are just getting started. Again, my name is Arlene J. Ramsey, and as you know, the name of my show is called Everyone Let's Talk. So we're going to get into a very sensitive topic this evening. Some people may catch feelings, others may catch strays. However, things don't change if we don't face and reveal what some of the challenges could be in this nation. So today's topic is women are getting the blame for why men are becoming gay, homosexual, and transgendered women. Again, women are getting the blame for becoming gay, transgender women, and homosexual and bisexual. For those of you who don't know, transgender women are people who identify as women. They were assigned male at birth, and they decided that they are better comfortable, better suited. It's better for them to identify as a woman. I have yet to get into or hear full disclosure from any of the men that are transgender women as to why they are deciding to identify as women and becoming transgender women. All right. So I looked up some statistics. For those of you who don't know, after I left my career as a project manager in international business, I became a cognitive behavioral and rational emotive behavior group therapist where I facilitated my program at Delaney Hall Halfway Home and the Greater Essex Drug and Alcohol Treatment Center. Before both locations closed, Delaney Hall closed, and we see what they're up to these days, whereas the Greater Essex Drug and Alcohol Treatment Center moved to locations. And my contract was not reinstated, right? During that time and prior to that, many of the men that I engaged with, and of course, I'm not going to disclose too much of people's personal business, but I need to discuss this. Many men who are gay and bisexual, who I've spoken to during that time frame, have expressed that they were sexually abused by men. Now, there are other men who disclose being sexually abused by women, but those who are sexually abused at a young age by women, which means that they were actually sexually active at young ages, those gentlemen have not, decided to be transgendered women, gay or bisexual, right? I don't have the figures on that. I am specifically speaking to those who were sexually abused by men in their family, some family member, or many of them were sexually abused by a man that their mother were involved with. Okay, so I roll in a piece of paper for now until I share my screen. Um, 20%, 20 to 46% of gay and bisexual men reported being sexually abused by men when they were boys. 19 to 45% of transgendered women reported being sexually abused or molested by a man, whether it's a male family member or a man that their mother was involved with. Many have expressed that their mother has done nothing to protect them or save them from these environments or situations. Many mothers, when I was a child, we thought that just young girls were being sexually molested by men. As I've gotten older, I've learned that 1 in 10 boys are sexually molested by a man, whereas when it comes to girls, it may be 1 in 5 or 1 in 7 girls. So the numbers are very, very close. Okay? So it's a matter of we have to protect and watch over our young children, period, whether they're boys or girls. right? So we don't understand what this does to the psyche of the individual and how they choose to take their power back. Now, why women are getting blamed is because of that factor, because they think, and that not that they think, their life and experience have shown them and taught them that their mother is not willing to do what she needs to do to keep her sons and children safe and protected. Another factor as to why women are getting blamed is because it is stated that women support, advocate, and befriend gay, bisexual, and transgendered women. Now, the men that are down low, that's another topic. Now, of course, these are men who do not disclose that they're down low, so women don't know and don't support them because women don't know. However, the transgender women, bisexual men, and gay men all know who the down low men are. And in the percentage or the community of down low men, you would find that majority of them have also reported that they have been sexually abused by either a male family member or a man that their mother have been dating. So I'm going to go in and try to look to share my screen because I want to pull up some facts here. One second. Let's share. All right. So I am on the website, which is Childhood Sexual Abuse Among Homosexual Men, Prevalence and Association with Unsafe Sex. I'm going to read this paragraph here, and I'm not going to go into reading too much into this page. For those of you who would like the reference, just let me know. I will text you the link, okay? But this paragraph reads, abstract, of 327 homosexual and bisexual men participating in an ongoing cohort study pertaining to risk factors for HIV infection, who completed a survey regarding history of sexual abuse. 116 of them, which averages out to be 35.5%, have reported being sexually abused as children. Those abused were more likely to have more lifetime male partners, to report more childhood stress, to have lied in the past in order to have sex, and to have had unprotected receptive anal intercourse in the past 6 months. The odds ratio is 2.13, which is 95% confidence interval. Sexual abuse remained a significant predictor of unprotected receptive anal intercourse in a logistic model, adjusting for potential confounding variables. I'm going to unshare my screen. Give me a minute. Let me see how I can do that. Where would I get? Let me come here. Okay. Stop screen sharing. Okay. With reading that, let me go on. Hold on. Let me see. Because there was something on Google that I would like you guys to know as well, right? Study evaluating child sexual abuse among sexual minority men show varying estimates. Broad health surveys and studies on men who have sex with men frequently report prevalence rates between 20% and 35%. So that's going back to the gay and bisexual men giving percentage. Transgender women and youth. Adolescent studies, research focusing on transgender adolescents notes that approximately 19% report experiencing childhood sexual abuse, which is significantly elevated rate compared to cisgender peers. Now note when they say cisgender, that is CIS. That just basically means people who are heterosexual, right? So I want to stop the screen sharing. I want to find a video and play this for you guys on my phone of transgender men talking about being able to produce milk as they have gone to seeing their lactician, and there are doctors who are helping them in their quest to create milk or produce milk. Hold on.
These babies will soon actually be.
Okay.
Well, I'm about to see my doctor, and if everything goes right, I'm about to walk away from here with a referral to a lactation specialist, which means these babies will soon actually be.
Fun fact, if I want to breastfeed,
And if you can't hear this, let me know.
the medication to help me produce the breast milk that I would need to breastfeed, I can do that. I have no problem with breastfeeding.
I've always wanted to be able to lactate. And today, my doctor, after my EKG results, said that he's feeling confident enough to start me on this medication. I would love to help a family, that can't breastfeed and does want the milk and has the option to have transgender milk.
And working to lactation, breastfeed our youngest child. Yeah, actually, mommy to know me. I've actually already successfully induced lactation. Like, I can actually make milk now, which has been a very interesting and a very cool experience. Like, very biological too.
I'm going to pause. Were you guys able to hear that? If not, I'll go get my speaker and make the volume loud. Are you able to hear this recording?
It's coming through all right as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so I'm going to press play again. It's about a minute long.
Like, they come from trans women, like,
so maybe let me just get my radio.
Hey guys, it's Phil here. So trans women can actually lactate. The reason why I'm saying this is because I've been lactating myself.
Trans women can produce milk. That's a good sign.
So I had my first ever breastfeeding consultation the other day for my first child, and I thought it went really well.
It sounds crazy, but trans women can produce milk to feed a baby. Here's how. Step 1, you must grow your
You're successful. How exciting. Mommy, make milky.
There is a way that you are able to feed the best milk that your baby can get that is equal to anybody else's. Don't feel you need to apologize for that.
I remember when I started lactating after being on hormones, I literally squirt myself in the face.
We're talking about transgender women breastfeeding tonight. An actual biological male who is a trans woman can eventually breastfeed.
No trans women can breastfeed, and this is great news because I always wanted to breastfeed, but I felt like my dry tits would give the kid an eating disorder. Kid just grows up, and he's chronically sucking down the nozzle at Yogurtland, and I just have to be like, sorry, that one's my bad.
Hi, I'm Abby Trans. I made a video about lactation from lactation, and it's taking off. I'm getting a lot of negative and there's a little more comments, but it's going viral, and I want to say thank you. I'm being viewed, and this is making my day. So thank you. I love my haters. This is what makes me me. So I'm doing what I want to do. If you don't like it, oh well.
All right, that was a short clip. I uploaded it to my TikTok as well. The community is continuing to grow. I have another video, which is a snippet of Laverne Cox, who is a transgender woman. She has been transgendered for over 30 years, and T.S. Madison, who also is transgender women, where they were having a conversation as far as women feeling uncomfortable thinking that they're sharing men, right? Because I don't know if you know, but transgender women who are men that were signed, they were male at birth, who are identifying as women, many of them a large percentage of them, let's say about 85%, have not had bottom surgery, so they still have their penis, whereas the other 15% has had bottom surgery. All of them are taking estrogen to, become or look more feminine. Some have had breast implants, you name it. Transgendered women has made it very clear that they are not interested in down low men, bisexual men, gay men. They are only interested in straight, heterosexual, cisgender men. These are men that make it very clear that they are only interested in women. The problem with this is they are still men. However, they're stating that they are women because this is what they identify as, regardless of their biological and genetic makeup. So I'm going to go on to say this. I'm one of those people that have that inner knowing, and I always say, mark my words. When I say something, I have been saying this for years. We need to address the trauma that has been happening in our society, right? Children are continuing to be abused, and what people don't understand is that children will eventually become adults and make up their minds, and their childhood would shape them, right? We are hardwired to being who we are. However, because of our experiences, we choose to lead and live the lifestyles that we choose to live and live and lead. So if I use myself as an example, I will be 50 in December. I have no children by choice, and that is because I also suffered trauma. And part of suffering the trauma, I have been made to raise or help raise 3 of my cousins from Pampers on up. And so because I understand the work, the time, the energy, everything that it takes to raise children, I have had enough of raising other people's children. I don't need children. That's just a snippet of how childhood experiences can cause a person to make up their mind to lead the life that they choose to lead. Now, I think I would be a great mother, right? However, my patience has been worn thin, and I have been exploited and abused enough that I, made up my mind where the freedom, my life, my freedom and everything that concerns me is for me and me only, and I am not sharing it with bringing a child into this world. That's it, right? There's no one that could have told me that I think you should have a child. It wasn't going to happen. It's not happening, right? And so in that, these men that have Laverne Cox, I don't know if I can pull up that video. I should pull it up. Let me find it, right? There was a time where she also went on to say that they too were abused by men. When she went on to talk about women have issues with trauma and that we too have been abused by men, so we have more in common. She didn't go into great detail when she said that, but I understood I'm saying he, but I understood what he meant when he said that, right? And so herein lies the issue when we're saying that society is blaming women for men becoming bisexual, gay, down low, and transgender women. Now hear me out. We have no control over the men and what men decide to do with the children and their family members. But the problem that society is having is that women have lost their way. They lost their warrior spirit to where they stand 10 toes down on righteousness. As in to say, when you learn that something like this has happened to your child, you're supposed to send that man packing. That man should not have another opportunity to do what he has done to your child. So you have a lot of people growing up to say, well, if women are not gaining any courage to stand 10 toes down on righteousness, to stop these things that has been happening to them. Some people have had gruesome experiences, right? I'm going to deviate a bit. In my building where I grew up, there was a she was older than me. She was probably about 5 years older than me or so. I thought that she was Down syndrome. I really thought that because of the way she used to walk and the way her eyes were, and she couldn't stand up straight. She was always dribbling. My young little mind, I thought that. And I remember one day telling my mom, I was talking about her, nothing bad. And I said, the girl that has Down syndrome, we were playing yesterday, and, she couldn't really jump rope. And my mom said, who are you talking about? And then she described her, and I said, yeah, that's the one that has Down syndrome. She said, child, she doesn't have Down syndrome. She was raped when she was about 5 years old, and that experience, it just it ruined her. She never went back to who she was. All these years I watched her, and she looks like someone that was born with Down syndrome. Right, and so these are things you can't make up, because depending on the person's experience and how harsh the trauma is, it rewires a person's brain, and sometimes it just it's like it throws off your equilibrium. Now, because we're living in a poor neighborhood, maybe if her parents had assigned her up for therapy, maybe that could have been reversed, because she never went to therapy. But one thing I do know is that she was never the same. She was just always stiff, walking crooked, and So with that, I never forgot that. I never forgot that. Right. So when I talk about trauma and sexual abuse, or some people's experiences, of her image pops up in my head. It pops up in my head. I have had my fair share of experiences, and I thank God that I still have all my faculties, and I have not been changed in that way, right? But it does something to you, and the level of pain, like everybody doesn't have the same threshold for pain. Some people have very low tolerance for pain. And for the person to have low tolerance, the slightest thing could feel like the biggest thing to them. And then you have some people that have very high tolerance for pain. So they will experience the same thing, and they're not affected in that way. It doesn't mean that they're not affected, and it doesn't mean that the trauma didn't happen, but they didn't feel the pain in that way. And we are how we are and who we are. We have no control over how people experience pain and trauma, right? So in that, the minds of the men that decided to be down low, gay, bisexual, transgendered women, lies in the crux of that is trauma. And in the crux of that trauma is a seething hatred for women. They have the hatred for the men that has done that to them, but what their understanding is, why didn't mom or the mother or the female family member that is raising and taking care of them, why couldn't they find the courage to put their foot down and stop what has been happening to them? So now it caused them to live a life of saying, I think this is what I'm going to do. And in that, they question and judge their sexuality, right? We've seen that with gospel singer Donnie McClurkin. Donnie McClurkin was molested by his mother's boyfriend, I think it was, or an uncle. I can't remember. And I think it was an uncle, and then some other family members. He was struggling with his sexuality for years. He's in the church, and, thank God for the women in the church and other church members that, had to talk to him, but he still grappled with that for years. And one thing we cannot do is tell someone how to react and how they should experience their trauma, and just even the experience of themselves and how they think of themselves after such experience has happened, right? Now, I did talk about last week when I talked about transgender women, where we're on the rise of that. Here's how I also know that this is combatant towards women. We do not see transgendered men. Now, transgendered men are the women who identify as men. Transgender men go on to get their gender-affirming care. They take their testosterone, and they go on and live a life, and they do not try to battle with men. They do not try to participate in cisgender men's sports. They do not try to produce sperm. They do not try to do anything that natural born men do, because they understand that they're still women and they are not as physically strong as men. They understand that. So the argument and the challenges that we have is only one way. And that speaks to the misogyny at play and the hatred that men have for women and just society and patriarchy and and how it's coming out as. Last week I discussed, the wealth gap is continuing to widen. We're getting rid of the middle class family, and now we're looking at the have and the have-nots. And in that, men that identify as women are relieved from the responsibility of being a man to create community. Right. Next week's show is going to be, like I said, this is a series. Next week's show is going to be something else. So I want us to, stay strapped for the ride, but the conversation needs to happen. Right, because men want to know what is it that women are actually offering to society. Right. Men have to earn their worth, and they are still earning their worth to this day. Women, we come into this world with our worth. We don't have to earn our worth. What we need to do is upkeep community and create safe spaces. We have to say so on who should be allowed in our community and who should not be in our community. But we've lost the plot and we're falling out of alignment. Women are not doing that these days. So if we're not creating safe spaces, we lost the warrior spirit. We're not standing 10 toes down on righteousness. What exactly are we doing? Because men are running amok and nobody's stopping them. And it's one thing when you're an adult and having to deal with them, you still have a way to protect yourself, but the children don't have a way to protect themselves. We lost the plot. That's going to be another conversation next week. I'm giving you all a tidbit. It needs to happen because we need to get back to the basics, right? And so why this is important, men are saying to themselves that women got to remember, although we had Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, we've had Fred Hampton, we had Medgar Evers, we had Kwame Ture, we have had, Farrakhan. We've had many men to speak to us in society. So I'm not saying that men cannot speak to us in society to restore order. But it's something about a woman's voice that when we start speaking, we're not just restoring order. We make mountains shiver. You understand me? We can erupt volcanoes. The ashe we have erupt volcanoes. That's the difference in the divine feminine presence. Women have lost that. And because women have lost that, society is running amok. Society is running amok. Domestic violence is sky high. Every other day, there's news of some man have killed his wife or murdered his girlfriend, murdered the children. Why is this happening? Does anybody have any questions or any statements?
Good show so far.
Let me take my fan off because I barely hear you. 1 second.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
I was just saying, great show, I must say. But men that betraying themselves become a woman that's down low. Mm-hmm. You are. Maybe just me. I'm just speaking out. You are able to tell.
You said that you're able to tell?
Yes.
The men who are down low?
Correct.
Let me tell you. Maybe it's me. Sometimes I'm a bit naive, right? And it's not just me as far as that being a bit naive. Many women, we're unable to tell. Now, years ago, I used to hang out, and I'm not going to say the name of the bar I used to hang out. Well, I'll say it because everybody knows. It's not a secret, right? And this is when I was living in North Newark. We used to hang out at Chester's. And so the original owner of Chester's died long ago. He got hit by a stolen car and he died. So then his gay brother took over the bar. And so a lot of gay and bisexual people would come in. Now we knew who were gay and bisexual. Now those that were down low, I didn't know. And it would be the gay men. Sometimes they would say, all right, today's reveal day. When they say today's reveal day, when they feel like letting you know who's who, down low men that walked in the door, they would say, okay, this brother's down low. We've gotten our fill of learning who was down low. And I'm telling you, I was surprised by everyone. And there would be times where I challenged them, like, you're not telling the truth, you're lying. But there's absolutely no reason for them to lie, because now these guys were couples, so they were in a relationship with each other, so they're not single and out here looking for men. So there were no reason for them to lie about who was down low. You know what I mean? Right. We would be surprised at who. I'm going to tell you, no. Many of the fellas that were pointed, I was not able to tell. Now, some people are very keen, and you do know, but I'm going to say for the most part, most women are not. Hence why many women are involved with men that are down low and they don't know it, right? When we talk about the spread of AIDS and HIV, that comes from men that are on the down low. Remember years ago, they said AIDS was a man's disease. And I used to always question, if it's a man's disease, then why are women catching AIDS and HIV? Well, let's say it is a man's disease. How did women catch it? The only way women are catching that is by the down low men. I mean, the men that are gay, bisexual, the men that are bisexual, it's a woman's choice to involve herself with him, right? But it is usually the transfer of many diseases are coming from men that are down low. And we have many men that are married with children, but they're down low, right? Let me play this other video of Laverne Cox and T.S. Madison. I found it. Hold on.
Sure.
Let me.
Used you.
Hold on.
Some women get it. Some get it. But a lot of them are so angry about, they can't get past the conversation of, oh God, this is gonna trend. Thinking that they're sharing men. I don't think it's just about men. I think there's majority about me. I think a lot of it's trauma. I think like a J.K. Rowling has taken her trauma of having been a survivor of sex abuse and made all men abusers, and includes trans women in that. It's delusional and it's crazy. It's insane. This woman is out of control. But there's also trauma attached as well. But then, but unless a trans woman abused you, this isn't about us. Right. We're not men. We're just not. And for the people who, can we say it loud? For those of you out there that are watching, we're trans women. Yes. We're not men. The people who abused you are men, and they have abused us too. Yes. Yes. We have more in common than differences. Yeah. We are not men. We might have been born male, assigned male at birth. I stick to that because it's like, and people are questioning that. But it's an assignment because they're not testing for chromosomes and all that at birth. They look at external genitalia and assign you something. That has absolutely nothing to do with the complexity of what makes men and women and non-binary people who they are. So a doctor assigns. Look at the camera and tell them that, Laverne. What did the doctor do? The doctor assigns gender at birth. assigned. And yes, there is a difference between sex and gender. Yes. And stop using the phrase biological sex because you sound crazy. Stick with me. There's no such thing. We're talking about genetics. Biology just means live it, like life. By something that's biological is something that is alive. Biological sex is, you sound crazy. So do we stop?
Okay, that's it for the video, right? It's a whole conversation, but this is snippets of the conversation. But again, it's important that we have this conversation because they are having the conversation and they are steadfast as in that they know more about this than we do, and they're steadfast in being a woman, and it's fine. However, I don't know if you all saw that another transgender woman decided that he wants to join the WNBA, right? Now, when you look at this person, of course, he's tall and he's muscular. He doesn't look anything like a woman, but you want to join the WNBA. And it's very clear, be clear, that all transgendered women who switched to female sports have been dominating our sports and taking our trophies. At the end of the day, we're losing our trophies to men. Even if they are playing on the same team, if I'm on the same team with a transgendered woman, and before the transgender woman got on, if I was the greatest player on that team, and then the transgender joins our team and becomes the greatest gender, that man is going to be taking the trophy, not me, because he's going to beat me out, right? The problem with a lot of women is we like to say that we can do the same thing that men can do. Some are saying that women are stronger than men. We have to get out of this mentality, and I get it. Some of this comes from being abused. A lot of women have been, back in the day before we had the rights to vote. Remember, we couldn't even have our own bank accounts. We were Mr. A property of Mr. So-and-so. We weren't even called by our names. So back in those days, you can only imagine what women had to deal with their husbands. And we didn't know because there were no laws and women had no rights and they had no voice. So they took all of that stuff in silence, and a lot of that stuff they took to their grave. The people who knew about it were the people in the community. When she had a black eye, whatever the case may be, or if he didn't bring the money home so that they can eat, those that were the next door neighbors made sure that household was taken care of by sharing their sugar, bread, rice, vegetables, whatever it is, they shared with that household, and they kept things under wraps, right? So now women are not living in primitive times like that. So now we get to see and hear what women have been dealing with, and it is not pretty, right? And so I'm going to discuss that as well as in regards to personality disorders, therapists, and so on. I just have a slew of shows to come, lined up. But again, if we don't get a handle on this, we're losing the plot and we're getting away from the basics. And people are finding ways to deal with their trauma and they're fighting back. But in their fight back, we're actually becoming blasphemous as a society, right? So transgendered women want to be with straight men. And I would like to say with my ancestors coming down on me, I would like to say that has a lot to do with them wanting to stick it in their face because they had to deal with the abuse as a child. So now I'm going to become transgender, and I want to now bully heterosexual men into having sex with me, right? Because now when they were boys and they couldn't protect themselves, they were bullied and taken advantage of and exploited. Now as men, I want to see you try to bully me. I'm going to become transgender woman, and I want you. And I'm going to keep saying that I want you. I don't want bi and all. No, I want heterosexual male, and I want to see you try to bully me, exploit me, rape me. It's not going to happen. The other thing is this. A lot of the transgender population thinks that feminism is a performance. They're always dressed to the nines. Their faces beat to the gods. For those of you who don't know, that means that their makeup is just immaculate. right? So the hair is right, makeup is immaculate, they keep their body right, their breasts are perky, and that is because they don't have the experiences of being a girl. How many of you grew up in a household that if you were voluptuous as a girl, or if you were naturally sensual as a little girl, you were told that you were fast? You didn't even know what they were talking about. They want you to put on a big T-shirt, get out of here, get out of the way, you're fast. No, telling you that we are girls, so we are naturally sensual, and that is, a part of our feminine and divine feminine energy, and we grow and blossom into that when we become women. But as little kids, we have certain mannerisms about ourselves that adult women would say that we're fast, and adult men would say that, young girls were fast. So a lot of our sensual nature has been bullied and beaten out of the cisgendered woman. So much so that you can probably count on your hands how many sensual women. When I say sensual and sexy and sensual woman is not the same as a beautiful woman. You can count on your hands how many sensual women you know. If you even look at the women in Hollywood, how many of them are sensual? Aaliyah was one, but she's no longer here, right? Or Felicia Rashad, who was Bill Cosby's wife, she's a sensual woman. I'm not just talking about beauty. Marilyn Monroe, a sensual woman. Sade, sensual. Tiana Taylor. It is something about the energetic pull and movement of certain women that makes you sensual. Women have lost that because of the sexual abuse, the other abuse from the mother and mama or whoever it is that upraised us. That you think that you're wrong. You thought that you were wrong. And the thing what men is, men know what men like. So when men become transgendered women, they understand to perform that to the utmost because they are trying to get the attention of men. Because they are a man, they know the value of sensuality. And they're not even talking about having intercourse yet. It is just the mannerisms and how they hold their hair and rub their shoulders and use their lips, and all of these things is performative and performing as a sensual woman, while we have gotten beaten out of our sensuality. If you notice, when women are interested in being beautiful, whimsical, sexy, and sensual, she gets attacked. She gets attacked by both men and women. Women will envy her, and male would want to dominate her. So beautiful, feminine, and sensual women feel like we have to hide because society will attack you. And you can see, if you don't hide, or how can I say, if you're not strategic in how you move along and say, I'm just going to go out here in the world and be me, just like that, then you would move yourself out of your sensual nature, because now you're in war mode and you're saying to yourself, let somebody try to victimize me and watch what will happen. Once we start thinking and speaking like that, that's more masculine energy. So once we have this way, the masculine energy takes over, and it even changes our mannerisms, how we move, talk, all of that, we change. And so society victimizes femininity. And when we're no longer feminine, the men say that we're not feminine, and then you have others that's stepping up to say that they can be a woman, or they can women better than we can. We are losing the plot. That's why we have to get this out of order. Men have to stop doing what they're doing to women. We need to be allowed to be our feminine selves and be who we are, so we can continue to move mountains. We can continue to have conversations with our men, and they can understand and listen to us and want to work with us. And the same with us, holding ourselves accountable so that we can work with our men. Right now, we're not working with each other. Everybody is bickering and fighting back and forth. Any questions or statements?
You did mention about how you cannot tell that male that are down low.
Yes.
You are correct. They wear the average. like regular clothes with a fitted hat, and you really can't tell.
That's right. That's right. And I think the women who are able to spot a man that's down low, I would like to say that she's been taught that by another man. We because here's why I'm going to say that. It's not in our mentality to say that, oh, men are out here down low, and we know what that looks like. We don't. Case in point, one of the guys that were pointed out as being down low, I refused because there was a person I knew who was actually dealing with this guy. So I said, all right, I'm going to observe. Remember, I told you I'm one of those women that observe more than I argue. So we all one year weekend we went and hung out. I think we were at either Great Adventure or Hershey Park. And so I'm with the guy I'm talking to, and she's with him. And I'm looking at him, and there were some men behind me. So we were all talking, and I'm looking at him. You know, I got on shades so he doesn't know I'm watching him. I'm like, I don't see anything about him that's, showing signs of being on a down low or whatever. And all of a sudden, I looked down at his hand, and his hand was dropped, like the, gay men when they drop their wrist. His wrist was dropped, but his hand was at the side of him. So his wrist was dropped, but his hand was all the way at the side. You have to be specifically seeking to look down there at his hand to know that he was doing that. Because everything else I couldn't tell. Huh?
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to imagine what you're talking about. I don't know what he was doing.
So when a person, when somebody would, when a feminine guy, when they just walk, they walk like a female.
Well, okay, it's because this guy's down low. You ever seen gay men drop their wrist to let you know that they're gay? Like a woman do, like they just drop the wrist. Mm-hmm. You never seen that, or hang their hand?
No, I don't know anything about that.
Okay, Mr. Joffrey, I'll show you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, please show you. Because we're hanging out at his hand, and this is a tall fella, so he got his hand all the way down at his side, but the wrist was dropped at the side. Everything else was just straight and normal, but the wrist. So now, it's like he's doing that because any guy around that's, down low know what that means. So I say this to say that they have a way of doing these things right in front of you and you don't know. But that's also like they have a way of, being with the woman that they're with and being in the same room or environment with another woman that they're cheating on, and the woman doesn't know. Women doesn't do it and men do it. So people have a way of living their double lifestyles without you knowing, right? And so hence why we get caught up. But again, it was imperative to have this conversation because I don't think women understand the roles that they're playing. And then women have advocate for, fought, and support gay and bisexual men. Women are friends with gay and bisexual men. They are always hanging out with gay and bisexual men. And I'm not saying not to hang out with them. But what women are not understanding is you're supporting people that's eventually turning around to uprise against you, right? And no, I'm not saying to abuse people and ostracize people, but I also think that we should be a bit more reserved in our support because we don't know a person's intentions on why they're doing what they're doing. Most people who are in this lifestyle, it is because of trauma. But let them tell it because they're not being truthful about their experience. They will tell you that they were born this way. Right, because it is easier to say I was born this way, so this is who I'm going to be, than it is to say, listen, I've been through X, Y, and Z, and I'm struggling with my sexuality, or I'm just angry, and this is how I'm taking my power back. I'm being rebellious, and this is how I'm going to live my life. It is harder to say that, but why I think that needs to be said is we still have young children that are being influenced by our actions, and what they're doing is making young children believe that they too can be born that way. So now young children are believing that they have an option to be this way, opposed to understanding that people are choosing a lifestyle because of trauma. If people knew that lifestyles are being chosen because of trauma, they would think twice before they say that this is a lifestyle that I would like to participate in, because they wouldn't identify with that trauma. They can't relate to it, right? So this is why I say it is important for us to speak our truth. It may sound like doom and gloom sometimes to some people, and it may sound like we're trying to point the fingers, but we're not. This is not about pointing the fingers. This is about getting to the crux of the issue and understanding why we're seeing the phenomenon that we are seeing. There are fundamental reasons why we are seeing this. Everything is cause and effect. Universal law is happening whether we believe it or not, know it or not, understand it or not. And universal law is not man-made law. It is spiritual law. These things are in effect.
That's a
Right?
question.
Sure.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the homosexual agenda?
Yeah, I am. I am.
Okay. Because I'm trying to figure out what the benefit of this is. This conversation, I really don't see the benefit. Okay, maybe people are being abused. Maybe people are being abused. Maybe people will be abused. And it will cause them to make these changes. But how are we to stop them or turn them around or keep them from making such decisions? I'm just not following. And when you were talking about the down low, what is a down low man when the transgendered women want a heterosexual man? So when she gets with a heterosexual man, does he automatically become down low because he's with a transgendered woman? I'm not understanding.
Great question. Okay, so now to go back to the homosexual agenda, that goes back to what I explained before. A lot of people that is into homosexuality is because of trauma. Other reasons, other reasons is because people are just sexual deviants, right? And so I can't speak for the deviants, but we should be clear that there are sexual deviants that exist, right? People are out here thinking that people are just innocent in their life choices. People are not innocent in doing what they're doing. We have sexual deviants, and then we have people that are dealing with trauma, right? And so we also have people that are dealing with what this world is becoming today, and what lifestyle can they participate in that will make life easier for them. There was another video that I sent to myself, and I might find it and pull it up for next week, where you have a transgender man. There's a whole slew of videos of transgendered women, with their penises because they haven't had bottom surgery. And they're going into women's bathrooms and women's spaces, and you can clearly see that they have a penis, yet and all. They have breasts up at the top, they're wearing wigs, and they're looking like women, right? I say this again. These are also the men that don't accept no. When you tell them no, they don't accept no. When you're not interested, they refuse to accept your rejection. And it is not that men are sensitive and they can't take rejection. We're dealing with also people that have personality disorders that feel like they're superior to other people. So in their minds, you don't reject them. When they tell you that they want something or they come after you or show interest, it's not, you don't have a choice to tell them you're not interested. You're just to bow down and do what they want you to do, right? You have a lot of transgendered women that still rape girls. They're going into women's bathrooms and sexually assaulting women. So this is why I talk about the deviance as well. There's too much confusion going on, and the transgender community do not speak to that. That is a problem. So for the transgender women who are men that still have their penis, if you are interested, if you say that you identify as a woman and you are interested in men, why are you still sexually assaulting women? I'll tell you why. Because when women identify that certain men are dangerous to be around, we stay away from them. And when we stay away from them, they don't get the opportunity to victimize us. So how else can you get close to women other than to say you identify as a woman, right? So being that you now identify as a woman, you are allowed to go in women's bathroom and you're allowed to be in women's spaces. And then when they get in women's spaces, they act repulsive. That is a factor as well. I tell you, I'm a compartmentalize everything. We can't broad brush everything. Everything is not a blanket statement, and everything is not to go under one umbrella. We have people with personality disorders. We have people that is dealing with trauma, and that's what it is. That's what it is. So we have to learn to separate the people. Those that are away that they are because of trauma, they respect the boundaries of other women. They don't think that they can be a woman better than a woman can. They choose to identify as a woman, and they go about their business. But one thing they do is bully heterosexual men into being with them. And part of doing that is by not disclosing who they are. So many of them look like women, and men think that this is a woman. A lot of men have one-night stands or little freak-offs, or what do you call it, or think that they're going to pay somebody $60 to be with them, and next thing you know, you get to the little $2 motel, and it's a man, it's not a woman. Hence why we hear stories sometimes of transgendered women you're murdered. Oftentimes, the transgender woman that you see in the news that has been murdered, it is because that's a person that did not disclose that they are a transgender woman. The man thought it was a woman until they found out that it was a man, and they can't take it. So now they're taking the lives of transgender women. It is best to disclose who you are. Many transgender women do not like to disclose that they are transgender because they don't want to be told that that the man is not interested in them. So they don't disclose this information until well after the fact. That is a problem. That's a problem.
Okay, you have I don't know how much statistics you have, but there's a transformation that takes place in prisons, and a lot of men go into prison, and because of things that happen to them in prison, and because they can't beat off everybody, they can't defend themselves, and things happen to them, and so they acclimate to being used, okay? And so when they get out of prison, and it doesn't have to be 40, 50 years. It could be 1 or 2 years. When they get out of prison, they find it easier to try to be a woman than it is to be a man. There's a famous name that I'm sure you know of. His name is Bradley. Are you familiar with Bradley?
Bradley, no. What's his last name?
Bradley Manning, so-called Chelsea Manning. Bradley Manning was a serviceman that divulged the airstrike where they were in the chopper and they were mowing down people overseas, reporters and people down on the ground. He put that out there, okay, and he's gone to jail and had sex change because it's hard as a man of his composition being in jail. So now he's supposed to be a woman. Okay. Prisons change people, transform people into something that they weren't meant to be, never intended to be. Now, when y'all were talking about recognizing, Janet came to mind. Janet Jackson. What was that Tyler Perry movie where she was sitting up there at the orchestra and she noticed what her husband was doing?
Yeah, I think that was Four Colored Girls.
Yeah, she noticed how he had an eye for other men.
Right.
But how can a heterosexual man, what is the difference between a heterosexual man and a down low man if a heterosexual man has intimate relations with a homosexual, a male homosexual, because homosexual just means same sex.
Okay, so that's a good question. So going back to the agenda and going back to prison, there's a small percentage of men who went to prison who decides that they're going to be transgender women. Many of these men that are transgender women have not been in the prison system. Many men who were in the prison system come out to lead heterosexual lives, but they're actually down low. So what makes them down low is that they don't outwardly say that they involve themselves with men. So you have to call them down low, and that is that is a large percentage of men. We do have a percentage of that because they're not outwardly saying that they indulge with themselves with men. Bisexual men, they outwardly say that they indulge men. So we understand that they're bisexual because they like men and women, and we understand that there's gay men who only involve themselves sexually with men. The DL man is the man that don't outwardly say what his sexual preferences are, and those are the men that lead heterosexual lives. So they're either living with a woman or they're married and they have children. Meanwhile, they're sneaking off to have intercourse with men. Right? That's the problem. We don't.
Are they no longer heterosexual?
Say that again.
Do they cease to be heterosexual?
They cease to be heterosexual. We're only going to, so for the men who are down low that we don't know are down low, we think they're heterosexual because we don't know. But the men know that they're not heterosexual. They know that they're down low. So for the percentage, we can only say that they're down low because we don't know who they are and we don't know what the percentage of down low men are. Right? We can only say that, and because of their lifestyle, we think that they're heterosexual when they're down low. Right? So, I get why you're asking that question, but that's not something that we can quantify or identify because they live down low lives. So we cannot identify them as we do transgender women, as we do bisexuals, and as we do gay men. We cannot identify the rest. Right? And we also have to be careful to understand that everything is not the agenda of our government. And prison, men still make the decision to go to prison. They still do the things that they know are wrong, that if they get caught, they go to prison. And they're going to prison and to be with all men. They know that, right? I don't know if you heard, what was it, 2 years ago? A transgendered woman, I forgot why he was in prison, but he went to jail, and because he identifies as a woman, they locked him in jail with women, and he impregnated 3 women in the jail, and all of them had, they had children for this man, because at the end of the day, they still have a penis. They have an agenda as to why they're going to identify as women, and why they're transgender women, and we haven't gotten to the bottom of identifying their reasoning because everybody's confused with the agenda of homosexuality and with the agenda that it is okay for men to identify as women. We're so confused in the argument that we don't realize that people have ulterior motives. And some men just want to get closer to women. So they know that they're repulsive. Some men don't, we don't like them. When you see them, you can see the devil on them. So when you see them and they're repulsive, women stay away from them. So in their mind, they want the access to women. So they don't care about identifying as a woman as long as it's going to get them what they want. There's a lot of people in this world that do that, and they have no shame. This is not about shame. This is about being a predator. And, if you want to go fishing, you're going to go and set up your fishing pole, and you're going to go where the fishes are. You're not going to stand in the middle of the park where there's no water to say you want fish. You're going to go where the fish is, and you're going to put a worm or something on the hook that you know the fish like, so that you can catch the fish. And that's what they do. They're fishing. But they're hiding their motives behind injustice and behind false righteousness. And it's as in to say, I should be able to identify with whom I want to identify with. Meanwhile, they're creating all kinds of, they're committing certain crimes that they shouldn't be committing, stating that they identify as women. Now, why do they want to lactate and produce milk? Some men say that they want to carry children. So where are you going to get the wombs from to carry a child? These are the very same men that some men don't like women for some of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. And this is not a male bashing thing. This is talking about the facts, which is why I stated before, partly why women are being blamed for men taking the directions that they're taking. Women are out of control, out of order, and we need to get back to the basics. That's going to be next week's conversation. We got to get back to it. No. Remember, men have to earn their worth. Women came into the womb. We were born with our worth. But how we upkeep our worth is by upkeeping community and creating safe spaces. The men earn their worth by creating everything that we're using. They built everything that we use. Every building, every car, every light, every machine. Everything we're using have been built by men. Men will build the community. The women have to fill it and upkeep it and create safe spaces. And women are not doing that. Starting with how women treat other women. When you make other women unsafe and uncomfortable, there goes the community. Now, I don't want to get too much into next week's conversation, but I'm going to end with that. And I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. And I know Bill Graves comes on at 8:30, and Baba Joe comes on after Bill Graves. This evening at 6 o'clock, we had Sister Dr. Bell. She did not come in today. I don't know if she did a broadcast of a show, of a previous show. Yesterday at 6 p.m., we had No Longer Silence with our Sister Francesca Nunez. And after her, we have the Grandma's Remedy. Thank you all for joining me, and I will you a good night.